Kawhi Leonard was just traded to the Toronto Raptors recently. Personally, I believe that the Spurs completely robbed the Raptors, but that's a video for another day. Today, we're going to talk about why the Boston Celtics decided not to trade for Kawhi Leonard. I was going to make a Lakers video for this, but since Boston is the better team, I decided to do them first. The Celtics were heavily involved in trade rumors for Kawhi, which makes sense because of all the future draft picks and young players that they have. In today's video, we're going to discuss why the Boston Celtics decided not to trade for Kawhi Leonard and how the Raptors trade impacts them. There are two reasons why Boston decided not to submit a serious trade offer for Kawhi Leonard. Well, one reasons and one player. Let's talk about the reason first. Risk. A healthy Kawhi Leonard is the best two-way player in the NBA. He is a great offensive player, and without a doubt the best perimeter defender in the NBA. But that is if he is healthy, which is a huge if. Kawhi only played 9 games last season due to his right quadricep tendinopathy injury. The only team that had access to the injury was the Spurs, and their medical staff had a much different opinion about the injury than Kawhi and his camp had. And the Celtics know that. The medical staff of the San Antonio Spurs is one of the best in all of sports, and definitely the most conservative. They cleared Kawhi Leonard. They told him that the injury has healed, that he is perfectly fine, that he is completely healthy. Him and his camp obviously thought different, and he held out for nearly the entire season. If one of the best medical teams in sports couldn't convince Kawhi to come back, how would the Celtics be able to convince him? If there was any team that could potentially convince him to come back, then it would most likely be the Clippers or Lakers, since Kawhi wants to go to Los Angeles. There are even reports now that Kawhi may not even want to play for the Raptors next season. So if the Celtics did trade for him, they would be faced with the possibility that he may not even play for them. Now we get to his contract. Kawhi only has 1 year left on his deal. Although not said specifically, his camp has made it obvious that he only wants to play for a Los Angeles team, preferably the Lakers. Why would Boston give up lots of their future draft assets and young players for a 1-year rental? It just doesn't make any sense at all. Obviously a similar thing happened with Paul George, when he wanted to go to the Lakers but ended up re-signing with OKC. It is still too big of a risk however, especially considering that if they do end up re-signing Kawhi, their tax bill would be through the roof. So with his injury and his contract, it would already be a huge risk trading for Kawhi Leonard. Now, let's get to the player. Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown was drafted 3rd overall by the Boston Celtics in the 2016 NBA Draft. He showed lots of potential in his rookie year, and played great last season in his 2nd year. He averaged 14 points per game, shot above league average from 3, and played great defense. He also has superb athleticism. He fit greatly with the rookie Jason Tatum. In a trade for Kawhi Leonard, the Celtics would have had to give the Spurs either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. The Celtics have been making Tatum pretty much untouchable in trade talks, so he was off limits. That left Jaylen, and the Celtics also made him near untouchable. Why? Fast forward 4 or 5 years, and Jaylen Brown could potentially be as good as Kawhi Leonard. There are just so many similarities. Coming into their respective drafts, they were both seen as athletic, defensive players, without a good jump shot. Although Jaylen Brown was more prominent than Kawhi Leonard in the draft. Jaylen Brown really improved his 3-point shot this season. The league average for 3-pointers is 0.362%. Jaylen Brown shot 0.395%. That is well above league average. While shooting 4.4 threes per game. That's good, with lots of potential to improve. Jaylen Brown is also a good inside scorer, just like Kawhi Leonard. Brown is a great finisher, and he uses his athleticism to blow by other players on his way to the hoop. He also draws fouls that way. On defense, Brown is already really good. Let's look at some advanced stats. Jaylen Brown's defensive rating is 100.3, which is tied for 5th best in the NBA. That is really good. How about defensive win shares? For players that played more than 50 games this season, Brown was 7th in the league with 0.054 defensive win shares. He also often guards the opposing team's best wing scorer. Look at him guarding Kevin Durant in the Warriors game. He did great. Jaylen Brown has the potential to become the best perimeter defender in the NBA, especially with his athleticism. His ceiling is insanely high. If he keeps working hard, he can potentially become better than Kawhi Leonard. That would be amazing. Why would Boston want to give that up for a possible one-year rental? That makes no sense, and the Celtics know this. Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens are both extremely smart people. There is no way that they would do something like this. And this is why the Boston Celtics didn't have a major interest in Kawhi Leonard. There was too big of a risk to take, and they already have Jaylen Brown, who could potentially be the next Kawhi Leonard. Even though the Raptors have him now, Boston is still the better team. They have more depth, and a much better coach, so they shouldn't have a problem getting past Toronto. That is why the Boston Celtics decided not to trade for Kawhi Leonard.